Hello, guys, and welcome to the Three Musketeers podcast hosted by Liyou,
Myja,
and Natalia.
And today we're going to be talking about misinformation, specifically with the COVID-19 virus and the vaccine.
So, the spread of misinformation, conspiracy theories, and unverified information about COVID-19, which has taken the form of false, fabricated content and true information presented in misleading ways, has caused the country to erupt into utter chaos. This deluge of information has introduced confusion among the public in terms of which sources of information are trustworthy, despite research showing what can be done to ensure that the spread slows.
So, did you guys expect the pandemic to go on for this long?
Honestly, no. I expected us to only get 2 weeks off from school, but we really ended up getting over, a year and a half, online, which was pretty tough for me. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't at all, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the same way, in which quarantine, it was going to last for only 2 weeks, where I thought we would have the virus under control, but with it almost being 2022, 2 years of a pandemic, it's crazy to think that we are still in this position today. I wish, and I could say the same for us and the whole world, that this was an event we would not have to go through. However, I like thinking positively, in which as long as people follow the mandates to wear a mask and get vaccinated, then we would return to somewhat a normal life again.
Exactly. I heard people kept pushing off, no, it's going to end by April, it's going to end by the end of June, it's going to end by Christmas. And then everybody thought that once 2021 started, we'd just be free of it. But I remember January, the first month of the year, cases skyrocketed, and I was thinking we really can't see the end of this until people start, getting their vaccines, getting tested, being wary of the spread and everything.
But I also think it has a lot to do with fake news, because fake news has been around for centuries, and according to John Stihar, even before newspapers, in societies without widespread literacy, misinformation, false information, and fake news was circulated through rumors, oral storytelling, songs, letters, pamphlets, imagery, and even reports. So the spread of false information has caused the public to be more inclined to not trust the government and some news sources because they honestly don't see them as being credible sources.
And to go off on a different note on that, I wanted to discuss the government's perspective and how the pandemic became politically motivated. So I had read an article from NPR titled "The Political Fight Over Vaccine Mandates Deepens Despite Their Effectiveness," and it discussed how Biden recently focused on getting as many Americans as possible vaccinated against the coronavirus, especially rolling out wide-reaching vaccine mandates for government employees and for businesses with more than 100 workers. But Republicans have grown increasingly hostile to the notion of mandatory vaccines, even though vaccine mandates have existed in the background in parts of the United States for many decades and have aided in the fight against the COVID-19 into a political battle. However, Republicans believe that the dividing line in the country's defense of freedom and liberty are the vaccine mandates. So one quote I came across was from Florida Republican DeSantis. He quoted how, quote, "We're going to make sure people are able to make their own choices. We're not going to discriminate against people based on those choices, and you're going to have a right to operate in society," end quote. And in which he was painting the issue of vaccines as a matter of civil liberties. I felt that with the amount of freedom that DeSantis is giving towards citizens, along with other politicians across the nation, it's not only just slowing down our progress from lowering cases, but it's becoming more of a political debate. It shouldn't be. It's our own health, and we should be concerned for during this pandemic, not being concerned about wearing a mask or getting vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It made me think that the vaccine is something that we've always pushed, at least from what we've seen, being from California, a liberal state, and so with the vaccine is very accessible. But when you think about it worldwide, I think people don't have that kind of accessibility. And something that I also saw recently with the news is the new variant, Omicron, I'm sure you guys heard of.
Yes.
And I think it was found in South Africa. And so Biden actually just announced that they're restricting travel to South Africa and other southern African countries like Botswana, Zimbabwe, and a couple others. However, even though there's been cases in other countries like Australia, Belgium, South Korea, and the UK, those countries specifically haven't even been you're still able to like travel to those. And there's been a case here in California, specifically in San Francisco. So it's kind of scary how it's like, right, it's really close to us, and so like we should definitely push for more vaccines. But I think now it's not just accessibility, but also people need to realize that they shouldn't be too wary or scared of the vaccine. Just to be mindful of yourselves and the people around you. And we also have a friend of ours, who won't be able to be going home. They're from South Africa, and they're going to be sharing their experiences.
I can't go home for the holidays because the leaders in America do not have all the information about the new COVID variant, and they made an irrational decision and closed the borders to southern Africa. I'm angry that other people's fears and lack of knowledge is keeping me from seeing my family back home.
Thank you, Lorato, for sharing your experiences. I know we have also dealt with our own hardships during this pandemic, especially during the beginning when we didn't know anything at all. I know for me personally, I remember in the news they were saying that we should save the mask for healthcare workers, and then they went back on that and essentially said, actually, no, you guys need to wear masks too now. And it was a lot of back and forth in the beginning, so it caused a lot of confusion between the public and the government, and it honestly led to majority of the general public being unable to trust the government, if that makes sense. And a lot of people, when it came to masks, they were like, okay, so should I wear the mask in order to protect myself, or should I save the mask for healthcare workers, that way they can go out and protect others? So it was a really big debate on that.
Yeah. I also remember, like, during the beginning of the pandemic was the employment, how everybody was being unemployed, they're losing their jobs, and, like, some people had to be essential workers and continue with their jobs, and it was just that kind of, like, weird dilemma, especially people in, like, lower income communities where they'd have to make that decision where they'd either go to work but possibly risk themselves with getting COVID, or staying home and not being able to feed their family because they don't have the money to. And that's a really hard decision to make, and I wish the government did a little more help. I heard that if you were on the verge of being evicted, you were able to still stay home and, thankfully not lose your home for you, yourself, and your family. And there was, like, some opportunities for food, but I feel like that was a conversation that people were not really talking about or, like, shedding light on the news especially.
I think it also affected schools in a really big way. I know that at my own school, during my junior year, they incorporated the pass or fail into the curriculum, which it had some benefits, but I think there was a downside to that because a lot of people started to slack off, if that makes sense, and they really started to just not focus on school. It wasn't a priority to them as much as it was before, which I understand because with a virus going around, there's a lot of uncertainty and everyone's scared, obviously. But it honestly caused a lot of mental health issues between the students. I think you should elaborate more on that, Natalia.
Yeah, so exactly. And for my school, we kept the same curriculum as, like, previous years, in which you either received an A, B, C, D, or F. And I remember at the time when the 2020-2021 school year began, many students had petitioned for a pass or fail curriculum, since our original one was affecting a lot of people's and students' mental health, actually. And many felt that the workload was either too much or being just stuck at home was just getting to them. And I could honestly agree to that, too. And however, though, I felt that it pushed me even more to receive actual letter grades in order to keep my grades up. So I was somewhat thankful for this old curriculum and somewhat, like, it was just mentally exhausting. But for our audience, though, we would like to ask you, as college students, how do you think the pandemic has affected you?
So all in all, we believe that people should be wary of the misinformation that they're consuming because it is further enabling the pandemic to continue.
Because the majority of the misinformation in the media is false and misleading, it is why people need to be more cautious of the info that they're consuming.
And because it can divide those in the country, especially those that believe in masks and those who don't.
So thank you guys for listening to today's episode of The Three Musketeers. We hope that you guys take this information and apply it to your everyday lives. Thank you.
Thank you.